Hi, I'm Tolis, and today I'm going to talk to you about the top 10 tools you need along your weight loss journey. As a businessman, I've learned that you need to be in the know. What does that mean? You need to know your numbers, and there's no exception. Same applies to weight loss. And so I want to start off with the very first tool that you need, and surprise, surprise, it's a scale. A scale that basically measures your weight. You get on the scale in the morning and you see how much you weigh, as simple as that. There is another scale I'd like for you to consider, and that is a body composition scale. It tells you your fat percentage, it tells you your muscle mass, it tells you what your hydration levels are, it tells you what your basal metabolic rate is, in other words, your BMR, tells you how many calories you burn at rest every single day, and of course, there is the number of how much you weigh in total. And there's a lot more other interesting things that you can also be aware of. Here's an example of a scale that I use. It's called a Tanita scale. It's a body composition monitor that I use on a regular basis, and it's been my companion for the last 23 years. The next important tool that I highly recommend you invest in if you don't have one already is a food scale. A food scale measures the amount of food that you eat on a daily basis or at every meal. A chicken breast, for example, a cup of rice, a bowl of broccoli, whatever that might be, each of these food items has a caloric value. And in order to determine what the caloric value is, you actually need to put it on a food scale. The third important tool that I would recommend you get is a diary. A diary keeps you honest, and so you can measure your calories and you can write those down every single day. You can measure the weight, your muscle mass, your BMR. You basically take stock of what your body is like every single day following your activities, and you can write it all down in your diary, in addition to how you're feeling. Are you feeling hungry? Are you feeling thirsty? Do you have a headache? Are your muscles cramping up? Or are you binging? Are you overeating? Whatever the case may be, the diary is there to write down your thoughts along your journey. Using a diary then helps me as your weight loss coach to identify some opportunities for changing things in your program, to give you some tips and tricks on how to do something differently. So if you're having some cravings, you can write that down and I can give you some advice on how to deal with your cravings. Another thing to write down in your diary is how well you've slept, how much water you've had, what kind of physical activity you've done, and how you feel. How you feel is a very important thing about this weight loss journey, and a diary is exactly good for that, writing everything down. These are the first 3 top things that I would recommend you invest in if you don't have already. The next thing I would recommend is a measuring cup. A measuring cup is very good for measuring liquids, powders, grains, like a cup of rice. How much is a cup of rice actually? And if you don't have a scale, the second best solution is to actually have a measuring cup. The next thing I would also highly encourage you, especially when you're dealing with a Herbalife weight loss program, is a scoop. A scoop basically tells you how much powder you're putting into your shaker for your smoothie. Which brings me to the next item you need to have, and that is a shaker. A shaker is what you use to make your Herbalife shake. You use 2 scoops full of Formula 1 powder, you put those into your shaker, and then you can measure just how much liquid you're putting in, typically 250 ml to 300 ml. Now, here is the next important tool, a blender. A blender is another nice way of making a delicious smoothie, only you can be much more creative and do a lot more with a blender, and you can actually use it for soups as well, and you can make it from porridges. You can do a whole other bunch of things that are very appealing, especially when you're looking to vary your weight loss program. But the shaker and the blender basically serve the same purpose, only the blender makes things a little bit more gourmet, if you will. The next thing you need to invest in is a measuring tape. Very simply for this reason. Weight loss is not really what we're talking about here, is it? What we're really talking about is fat loss. And that is probably one of the more difficult things to gauge or to measure, especially when you're just using a normal scale. So a measuring tape helps you to take the circumference around your neck, your arms, your chest, your midsection, and your thighs and your buttocks. And that is a way of taking an initial measurement to see what the circumference around these body parts is so that you can then compare what your circumference is 4 weeks after you've started the program to see whether you're actually losing inches or centimeters around your body. So the next thing that you need to invest in is a tablet box. As busy individuals, we lead busy lives. We may go away from home for a while, for an afternoon, for dinner, maybe for a holiday. So a tablet box helps you to organize all your nutritional supplements in a nice little neat tablet box, and that doesn't require you to take your whole supply with you wherever you're going. So it's a very, very convenient thing to do. And of course, as I mentioned in my previous video, a water bottle or some kind of a container that you can put water in to actually gauge how much water you're drinking every single day without even having to think about it. It also helps you to take the water bottle along with you in an office, at a meeting, or in the gym. Now, here are 3 bonus items that you might want to consider investing in. One of my favorite bonus items is this. I'm wearing it on my wrist. It's a smartwatch. This one in particular is called a Polar watch, and that basically is used by a lot of athletes. So if you've become a lot more active as and when, and you want to take measurement of your daily steps, or the estimate amount of calories that you've actually burned, or you want to take measurement of your heartbeat, a watch like this is a perfect tool to have that measures everything going on in a daily basis without you even having to think about it. It even goes so far as measuring the quality of your sleep overnight. More about sleep in another video. Another tool that is also very important and can be considered a bonus, especially after you reach your 50 years, for example, is a blood pressure monitor. Blood pressure is actually quite an important thing to gauge, especially when you're getting older, because typically a lot of people start to get high blood pressure, so you want to keep that in check. The third item that you might also want to consider is a blood sugar monitor. Now, some athletes like myself, we like to know what our sugar levels are in our bloodstream for the very simple reason we need energy. Whereas a diabetic would also need to know what their blood sugar levels are, especially if they're insulin dependent. Knowing your numbers accurately, or as best as possibly gauging the amount of calories you consume, the amount of water you drink, how your performance is in the gym or when you go for a walk, how well you sleep, and all these interesting things will help you become one of the most measured individuals, at least in your family. And what is important is you'll be in the know. So in the meantime, what you can do is click on the link in the description box below this video. I've got a checklist of all the items I've just described for you. Go at them, invest where you can, or maybe you already have all these items, but at least you have a checklist of things that you need as tools to help you stay on top of your numbers.